Jake Martinez walked through the metal hallways of Zenith Station, carrying his small bag of belongings. The Space Academy looked bigger than anything he had ever seen on Earth. Alien cadets moved around him, some with scales, others with extra arms or strange colors. He tried not to stare, but everything was so different from home. The human cadet found his room number and pressed the door button. Inside, 2 beds waited for him, along with his roommates. One was tall and thin, with 4 arms and looked like a giant insect. The other seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors when it moved. "You must be the human," said the insect-like alien in a clicking voice. "I am Kratos from the Chiron system. This is Nalo, of Vorthan." The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome to Zenith Academy, Jake Martinez. We read your file." Jake dropped his bag on the empty bed. "Nice to meet you both. This place is amazing." Before they could talk more, a loudspeaker filled the room. "All new cadets report to the main assembly hall immediately." The 3 roommates walked together through the station corridors. Jake saw hundreds of different alien species heading to the same place. Some floated, others crawled, and a few looked almost human except for strange features like purple skin or extra eyes. The assembly hall was huge, with seats for thousands. Jake sat between his roommates as a large reptilian figure stepped onto the stage. The creature wore the uniform of a commander and had sharp teeth that showed when it spoke. "I am Commander Vextai," the reptilian said in a deep voice. "Welcome to Zenith Academy, the finest military training facility in the galaxy. You are here to learn, to serve, and to protect the peace we have built between our worlds." Jake listened as the commander talked about rules, schedules, and expectations. Most of it seemed normal for any military school. Then Commander Vextai's voice became very serious. "Now I must speak of our most important safety rule. This station houses many dangerous creatures for research and training purposes. Some are kept here because they are too dangerous to leave anywhere else. The most dangerous of all are the Apex Cubs." The room became completely quiet. Jake noticed that even his alien roommates looked scared. "Apex Cubs are the young of the galaxy's most deadly predator species," the commander continued. "Even as babies, they can kill a full-grown warrior in seconds. They are kept in special containment areas on level 7. No cadet is allowed near these areas. No cadet should ever approach an Apex Cub. They may look harmless, but they are killing machines from birth." The commander's yellow eyes looked around the room. "Some of you come from warrior cultures. You may think you can handle any creature. You are wrong. Apex Cubs have killed trained soldiers who thought the same thing. Stay away from level 7. Stay away from the Apex Cubs. This is not a suggestion. This is an order that will keep you alive." After more safety talks and schedule information, the cadets were dismissed. Jake walked back to his room with Kratos and Nalo, thinking about what the commander had said. "That was scary," Jake said. "Those Apex Cubs sound really dangerous." "They are the most feared creatures in the galaxy," Kratos clicked nervously. "My people have legends about them. They say apex predators once destroyed entire star systems." Nalo's crystal body flickered red with worry. "On my world, we tell children stories about apex beasts to make them behave. Just the idea of them keeps whole planets in line." Jake nodded, but he was confused about something. When they reached their room, he looked at his roommates with a puzzled expression. "I have a question," he said slowly. "Are Apex Cubs about this big?" He held his hands apart to show a size about as big as a house cat. "Yes, that sounds right for young ones," Kratos answered. "Why do you ask? And do they have fur and make little chirping sounds?" Nalo's crystal body turned bright red with alarm. "Jake, how do you know what Apex Cubs look like and sound like?" Jake walked over to his bed and looked underneath it. "Because I think I have some." He made a soft clicking sound with his tongue. "Come on out, guys. It's okay." 3 small furry creatures crawled out from under the bed. They looked like a mix between a cat and a small bear with big eyes and tiny claws. They chirped happily when they saw Jake and ran to him, climbing up his legs to sit on his shoulders and arms. Kratos fell backward off his chair. Nalo's entire body turned white with shock. "Jake," Nalo whispered in terror. Those are apex cubs. You have apex cubs in our room. Really? Jake looked at the three small animals cuddling against him. But they're so friendly. I found them in the lower levels yesterday when I was exploring. They seemed lost and hungry, so I brought them here. They love the food from the cafeteria. You fed them? Kratos's voice went up 3 octaves. You touched them? How are you? Still alive? Jake scratched one of the cubs behind the ears and it purred like a happy cat. Look at them. They're just babies. This is Luna. She's the smart one. This is Shadow. He likes to hide. And this little guy is Scout. He's always exploring. The 3 cubs chirped and nuzzled Jake's face, clearly happy to see him. They sleep on my bed, Jake continued. Luna likes to curl up by my feet. Shadow prefers to hide under the covers. Scout usually sleeps on my pillow. They're really good. Roommates, much quieter than my neighbor's dog back home. Kratos and Nalo looked at each other in complete shock. Here was their human roommate, casually petting 3 of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy like they were harmless pets. Jake, Nalo said carefully, these creatures could kill everyone on this station. These little guys? Jake looked down at the cubs who were now playing with his shoelaces. I don't think so. They're too busy being cute. As if to prove his point, Scout rolled over on his back, showing his fuzzy belly and making happy chirping sounds. Luna started grooming Shadow's fur with her tiny tongue. Kratos realized something that made his blood run cold. Jake, how long have you had them? About a week now. Why? A week? Nalo's voice was barely a whisper. You have been living with apex cubs for a week and nobody knows? Jake shrugged. I thought they were just some kind of station pets that got loose. Are you saying these little guys are really dangerous? His roommates nodded frantically. Jake looked down at the 3 cubs, who looked back at him with big, innocent eyes. He could not imagine how these adorable creatures could be the monsters everyone feared. Dr. Yelan Orth moved through the academy halls with her scanning device in hand. The tall, blue-skinned Etherian scientist performed these routine inspections every month to check for any biological hazards in the cadet quarters. Her 4 eyes could see things that other species missed, and her scanner could detect dangerous life forms from 50 meters away. She had checked 12 rooms without finding anything unusual. Cadets kept normal pets from their home worlds, nothing that violated academy rules. But when she approached room 247, her scanner began making warning sounds she had never heard before. The device was showing red alerts. 3 separate life forms were registering as Class A biological threats. Dr. Orth checked her scanner twice, thinking it must be broken. Class A threats were the highest danger level, reserved for creatures that could destroy entire buildings. She knocked on the door. Room inspection, she called out. Jake Martinez opened the door with a smile. Hi, Dr. Orth, come on in. The moment she stepped inside, her scanner went crazy. Loud beeping filled the room as the device flashed bright red warnings. Her 4 eyes went wide with shock as she saw the source of the alerts. 3 small, furry creatures were playing on Jake's bed, rolling around and chirping happily. To most species, they would look cute and harmless. To Dr. Orth's trained eyes, they were nightmare creatures that should not exist outside of maximum security containment. Jake, she said slowly, trying to stay calm. What are those? Oh, those are my roommates, Jake said cheerfully. Well, my other roommates, Luna, Shadow, and Scout. I found them wandering around the station. Aren't they cute? Dr. Orth's scanner was beeping so loudly that other cadets were looking out of their rooms to see what was happening. She quickly turned it off, not wanting to cause panic in the hallways. Jake, where exactly did you find them? Down on the lower levels, they seemed lost and hungry. I felt bad for them, so I brought them here. They love the cafeteria food, especially the meat dishes. Dr. Orth felt her blood turn cold. These were not just apex cubs. Her trained eyes could see the specific markings that identified them as shadowpaw juveniles. Shadowpaws were the most dangerous apex predators in the known galaxy. Adult shadowpaws could tear through starship armor with their claws and move faster than most security systems could track. Jake, how long have you had them? About a week now. They're really smart. Watch this. Jake made a clicking sound, and all 3 cubs stopped playing and looked at him. "Luna, fetch." He threw a small ball across the room. "The cub," he called. Luna jumped off the bed, caught the ball in midair, and brought it back to Jake. She dropped it in his hand and chirped proudly. "Shadow, hide." The second cub immediately ran behind the dresser and disappeared from view, completely silent. Scout, Tool. The third cub ran to Jake's desk and picked up a small wrench in his mouth, bringing it back to Jake. Dr. Orth watched, in amazement and terror. These cubs were not just tame, they were trained. They were following complex commands and showing problem-solving skills that most adult creatures could not match. "Jake," she said carefully, "do you understand what these creatures are? Some kind of local pets, I guess. They were just wandering around loose. They are shadowpaw cubs. They are the offspring of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Full-grown shadowpaws have destroyed entire space stations." Jake looked down at Scout, who was now chewing on his shoelace while purring. "This little guy? Really? Those little guys will grow to be 3 meters long with claws that can cut through steel. Even as cubs, they should be able to kill you, without effort." Jake scratched Luna behind the ears. "But look how friendly they are. Luna here figured out how to open the food containers on her own. Shadow learned to turn the lights on and off. And Scout can actually help me with my engineering homework." "Help you with homework?" "Yeah, he can fit into small spaces and move tiny parts around with his claws. He's really good at it." Dr. Orth realized the situation was far worse than she had thought. These cubs were not just loose on the station. They were bonded with a human cadet who had no idea how dangerous they were supposed to be. "Jake, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Academy protocol requires that any loose apex specimens be terminated immediately." "Terminated?" Jake's voice became sharp. "You mean killed? It is for the safety of everyone on the station." Jake moved between Dr. Orth and the cubs. "No, absolutely not. These are intelligent creatures. They have names. They have personalities. Luna is brave and protective. Shadow is shy but curious. Scout is playful and loves to explore. You cannot just kill them." The 3 cubs seemed to sense tension in Jake's voice. They moved closer to him, not in an aggressive way, but clearly ready to protect their human friend. Dr. Orth noticed their behavior change. According to everything she knew about shadowpaws, they should have already attacked her for threatening their pack leader. Instead, they were waiting for Jake to tell them what to do. "Jake, I have to report this to the Academy administration. They will want to speak with you." "Fine, but I will not let anyone hurt Luna, Shadow, and Scout." Within an hour, word had spread throughout the Academy. A human cadet was keeping apex cubs as pets, and somehow he was still alive. Cadets from warrior species like the Corvin and Thraxian clans gathered in groups, whispering about the impossible situation. Some cadets were impressed. If a human could tame apex predators, what else might humans be capable of? Others were terrified and requested room transfers to different levels of the station. Kritos and Nalo had moved their belongings to emergency housing, too scared to sleep in the same room with the cubs. They felt bad about abandoning Jake, but they also wanted to stay alive. Jake sat on his bed with Luna, Shadow, and Scout curled up around him. He could hear other cadets talking in the hallways, but he did not care what they thought. These creatures had trusted him when they were lost and alone. He would not abandon them now. "It's okay, guys," he said softly, petting each cub in turn. "I won't let anything happen to you." Luna chirped softly and nuzzled his hand. Shadow peeked out from under the blanket where he was hiding. Scout climbed onto Jake's shoulder and made contented purring sounds. Jake knew that tomorrow would bring trouble. The Academy administration would want explanations. They might try to take his friends away. But tonight, he was just a young man, with 3 unusual pets who trusted him completely. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness toward 3 lost creatures was about to change how the entire galaxy thought about humans and their ability to bond with other species. Jake walked into the Academy's disciplinary hearing room with Luna, Shadow, and Scout following close behind him. The 3 cubs stayed calm, but their eyes watched every movement in the room. Jake had asked if he could bring them, explaining that separating them would cause stress for everyone involved. The hearing panel sat behind a curved metal desk that looked more like a fortress wall than furniture. Admiral Thane Veltar, a massive Corvan with gray skin and battle scars across his face, sat in the center chair. His people were known as the finest warriors in the galaxy, and he looked like he could crush a starship with his bare hands. 2. His left sat Dr. Sin Coral, an Etherian scientist with pale blue skin and 4 intelligent eyes. Her species valued logic and careful thinking above all else. To the right sat General Rex Morth, a draconian with scales that shifted color based on his mood. Right now those scales were dark red, showing anger or concern. Cadet Martinez, Admiral Veltar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. You stand, accused of violating Academy safety protocols by housing dangerous biological specimens in your quarters. Sir, with respect, I disagree with calling them dangerous, Jake said. He tried to keep his voice steady, but his heart was beating fast. General Morth's scales turned darker red. You disagree? These are apex cubs, Cadet. They are killing machines, designed by evolution to destroy anything they encounter. Scout chirped softly and looked up at Jake with big, curious eyes. The little cub tilted his head as if trying to understand why everyone seemed upset. General, Scout here has never hurt anyone. None of them have. They are intelligent, friendly creatures who just want to be cared for. Dr. Coral leaned forward, her 4 eyes studying the cubs carefully. According to our records, you have had these specimens for over a week. How do you explain that you are still alive? Because they are not monsters, Jake said. They are just animals who were lost and scared. I gave them food, shelter, and kindness. They gave me friendship in return. Admiral, Veltar looked skeptical. Friendship? With apex predators? Let me show you. Jake made a soft clicking sound. All 3 cubs immediately sat up and looked at him with attention. Luna, demonstrate puzzle solving. Luna walked over to a complex training device that Dr. Coral had brought for testing. The device had multiple colored buttons and sliding panels. Most adult cadets needed several minutes to solve it. Luna studied it for a moment, then began pressing buttons and moving panels with her small claws. Within 30 seconds, the device lit up green, indicating a successful solution. The panel members looked surprised. Shadowpaw cubs were not supposed to be capable of complex problem solving. Shadow, maintenance demonstration. Shadow moved to a partially disassembled communication device on the table. Using his tiny claws with incredible precision, he connected several loose wires and tightened small bolts. When he finished, the device turned on and began working perfectly. General Morth's scales shifted to yellow, indicating confusion. How is this possible? Scout, emergency response. Jake fell to the floor and pretended to be unconscious. Scout immediately ran to him and began making loud chirping sounds, clearly calling for help. When Jake did not respond, Scout ran to the emergency button on the wall and managed to press it with his paw, activating the room's alert system. Dr. Coral quickly turned off the alarm, but her expression had changed completely. This behavior is impossible according to all known research on apex species. It's not impossible, Jake said, standing up and petting Scout, who was still worried about him. It just requires trust and patience. Admiral Veltar stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across the room. Even if this is true, protocol demands that loose apex specimens be destroyed for station safety. The 3 cubs sensed the threatening tone in the Admiral's voice. They moved closer to Jake, but not in an aggressive way. Instead, they positioned themselves so they could see all the panel members while staying close to their human friend. They are not loose specimens, Jake said firmly. They are my friends. They have names, personalities, and feelings. Luna is protective and brave. She always makes sure Shadow and Scout are safe before taking care of herself. Shadow is gentle and artistic. He likes to arrange things in patterns and enjoys music from my tablet. Scout is curious and adventurous. He explores everything and loves learning new skills. As Jake spoke, Luna walked over to Shadow and began grooming his fur. Just as Jake had described, Scout was indeed exploring the room, but carefully, touching things gently with his claws and then looking back at Jake for approval. Dr. Coral was taking notes rapidly. The stress hormone levels in their scent are remarkably low. Most apex specimens in captivity show extreme stress indicators. These cubs appear completely calm because they are not captives, Jake said. They choose to stay with me. I have never locked them up or forced them to do anything. Everything they do is because they want to do it. General Morth's scales had shifted to green, indicating deep thought. What happens when they mature? Adult shadowpaws are 3 meters long with claws that can tear through armor. I don't know, Jake admitted. But I believe they will remain loyal to their pack, to me, just like any other intelligent species would. The panel members looked at each other uncertainly. This situation was unlike anything they had encountered before. A human cadet had somehow formed a peaceful bond with creatures that should have killed him on sight. The board will consider this matter carefully, Admiral Veltar announced. In the meantime, the cubs will remain with you, but under constant monitoring. As Jake prepared to leave with Luna, Shadow, and Scout, Dr. Coral called out to him. Cadet Martinez, one more question. Why do you think you can bond with these creatures when no other species has ever managed it? Jake thought for a moment, petting Luna as she climbed onto his shoulder. Maybe because I never saw them as monsters. I just saw 3 scared babies who needed help. When you approach someone with kindness instead of fear, they usually respond, with kindness too. The 3 cubs chirped softly in agreement, and Jake walked out of the hearing room with his unusual friends beside him. Behind him, the panel members sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how a human cadet had just challenged everything they thought they knew about apex predators and the nature of friendship across species lines. General Morth's scales were bright orange with determination as he addressed the hearing panel the next morning. I propose a test. If this human and his cubs can prove their bond is real and stable, we reconsider our decision. Admiral Veltar nodded slowly. What kind of test? Combat scenarios in the training simulator. Real emergency situations. If the cubs show even a hint of their natural killer instincts, we end this immediately. Dr. Corral looked concerned. The risk to other cadets could be enormous, which is why we must know the truth, General Morth replied. If these creatures are truly safe, we need proof. If they are not, we need to know before someone gets killed. Jake stood in the simulator preparation room with Luna, Shadow, and Scout. The cubs seemed excited about the new environment, exploring the equipment with curious chirps and gentle touches. You don't have to do this, Dr. Coral said to Jake. No one would blame you for refusing. Yes, I do, Jake replied, checking his emergency gear. If I don't prove they are safe, you will kill them. That's not acceptable. Through the observation window, dozens of cadets watched nervously. Ryan Blake, a proud Corvan warrior in training, stood with his arms crossed. This human is either very brave or very stupid. Lisa Chen, a nervous Vorthan cadet with crystal skin that flickered between colors, watched with fascination. Look how calm those cubs are, they trust him completely. The first test began. The simulator created a starship corridor with a massive hull breach sucking air into space. Alarms blared and emergency lights flashed red. Jake and the cubs had to seal the breach before the atmosphere was completely lost. Jake ran toward the breach, fighting against the rushing air. Luna immediately understood the danger. She used her claws to grip the metal floor and moved to one of the emergency seal controls. Her small size let her reach places Jake could not access. Shadow found the backup power system and managed to activate it with his precise claw movements, restoring power to the sealing mechanisms. Scout squeezed into a damaged air duct and pushed loose debris out of the way, clearing the path for the emergency systems. Working together, they sealed the breach with 30 seconds to spare. In the observation room, several cadets looked impressed, despite themselves. The second test was combat simulation. Holographic pirates attacked their position, firing energy weapons and trying to board their ship section. Jake took cover and returned fire while the cubs moved around the battlefield. The watching cadets expected blood and violence. Instead, they saw something amazing. Luna, Shadow, and Scout worked together to disable the holographic enemies without killing them. They tripped attackers, damaged weapons, and created distractions that let Jake capture the pirates instead of destroying them. Incredible, whispered Dr. Corral. They are showing restraint against enemies. That should be impossible for apex predators. The third test pushed them even harder. The simulator created a ship-wide fire emergency, with several injured crew members trapped in different sections. Jake and the Cubs had to rescue everyone before the fire spread to critical systems. Jake ran toward the first injured person, but smoke made it hard to see. Luna's enhanced senses guided him through the smoky corridors. When they found a wounded Chiron cadet, Luna gently picked him up in her mouth and carried him to safety like a mother cat carrying her kitten. Shadow used his climbing abilities to reach crew members trapped on higher levels, while Scout squeezed through ventilation systems to turn off damaged equipment that was feeding the fire. The most dramatic moment came when they found Lisa Chen's roommate, a large draconian cadet, trapped under fallen debris. Jake was not strong enough to lift the metal beam, and time was running out. The three Cubs worked together, using their combined strength and Jake's guidance to lift the beam just enough for the injured cadet to escape. They showed perfect coordination and determination to save a life. But the real test came when the simulator malfunctioned. The holographic fire became real when a power surge damaged the safety systems. Actual flames spread across one wall and real smoke began filling the room. The emergency systems failed and the exit doors locked automatically. Jake realized immediately that this was not part of the test. Everyone stay calm. This is a real emergency. The Cubs could have panicked or become aggressive in the dangerous situation. Instead, they moved into action with incredible efficiency. Luna found the manual door release and managed to open it with her claws. Shadow located the real fire suppression system and activated it. Scout guided Jake to unconscious cadets who had been overcome by smoke. But the most amazing moment happened when Ryan Blake, the proud Corvan warrior, stumbled and fell near the spreading fire. Scout, the smallest of the three Cubs, immediately ran to him. Instead of leaving the Corvan behind, Scout grabbed Ryan's uniform with his teeth and dragged him toward the exit. Ryan was 3 times Scout's size and weight, but the little Cub refused to give up. Luna and Shadow came to help, and together the 3 Cubs managed to get Ryan to safety before the fire reached him. Emergency teams arrived and put out the fire quickly, but everyone had seen what happened. The Cubs had risked their lives to save cadets who had been calling them monsters. In the medical bay afterward, Ryan Blake sat with his arm in a healing cast, looking thoughtful. Jake sat nearby with the 3 Cubs curled up around him, all of them tired but safe. "I owe you an apology," Ryan said quietly. "All of you. I thought your Cubs were dangerous animals that would eventually turn on everyone." Scout chirped softly and walked over to Ryan, gently nuzzling his good hand. "Now I understand," Ryan continued. "They are not tame monsters. They are family members who happen to be very powerful." Lisa Chen approached nervously, her crystal skin flickering with curiosity. "Jake, how did you know they would save us instead of running away?" Jake scratched Luna behind the ears as she purred contentedly. "Because that's what family does. When people you love are in danger, you help them. It doesn't matter what species you are." Dr. Coral entered the medical bay with her scanner in hand. She had been monitoring the Cubs throughout the emergency. Their stress levels during the real fire were actually lower than during the simulated tests. They perform better under actual pressure because the danger was real, Jake explained. They knew people needed their help, so they focused completely on helping. Word of the Cubs' heroic actions spread throughout the academy within hours. Cadets who had been avoiding Jake now approached him with curiosity and respect. The 3 small creatures that everyone had feared were now being called heroes. But Jake knew the real test was not over. The Academy administration still had to decide whether Luna, Shadow, and Scout would be allowed to stay, or whether protocol would force them to be destroyed despite their proven loyalty and intelligence. That decision would come tomorrow. 3 months later, Jake walked through the halls of Zenith Academy with Luna, Shadow, and Scout at his side. Other cadets no longer stared in fear when they saw the Cubs. Instead, they waved and called out greetings. Some even stopped to pet the Cubs, who had become celebrities throughout the station. The Academy had quietly created new protocols. The Martinez exception allowed for supervised human-apex interaction under specific circumstances. Jake was the first test case, but Academy researchers were already planning expanded programs. Ryan Blake jogged up beside them, his Corvan warrior training making him move with easy strength. "Jake, wait up. I wanted to talk to you about my request." "Sure about this, Ryan?" Jake asked, scratching Scout behind the ears. "Working with apex species is not like normal military service." "I am sure. That day in the fire changed how I see things. My people pride themselves on being warriors, but what you and your cubs did took more courage than any battle I have heard of." Luna chirped at Ryan and walked over to sniff his boots. She had become fond of the Corvan cadet, especially after Scout's dramatic rescue during the fire emergency. "Besides," Ryan continued, "I think Corvans and humans might work well together, with apex species. We understand strength and loyalty. We just need to learn how to offer friendship instead of dominance." They reached the xenobiology laboratory where Dr. Coral was waiting with several important-looking officials. She had been promoted to head a new department studying interspecies cooperation, with Jake as her primary research assistant. "Jake, perfect timing," Dr. Coral said. "I want you to meet Ambassador Thex from the Galactic Council. He has a very interesting proposition." The ambassador was a tall, elegant Etherian with silver skin instead of the usual blue. His 4 eyes studied Jake and the cubs with obvious fascination. "Cadet Martinez, your work here has attracted attention at the highest levels of government. We have a situation that requires your unique abilities." Shadow climbed onto Jake's shoulder and made soft, chirping sounds in his ear, as if listening to the conversation. "What kind of situation?" Jake asked. "The Shadowpaw homeworld. Adult Shadowpaws have been attacking trade ships along the Meridian route for the past 6 months. We have lost dozens of vessels and hundreds of crew members." Jake felt Luna tense against his leg. She always seemed to sense when conversations became serious. "Our military forces are powerful enough to destroy the Shadowpaw colonies," the ambassador continued. "But that would mean wiping out an entire species. The Galactic Council believes there might be another way." Dr. Corral activated a holographic display showing star charts and ship attack patterns. The attacks began suddenly with no apparent cause. Before that, Shadowpaws had been reclusive but peaceful for over 50 years. "You think something is wrong on their homeworld?" Jake asked. "We think they might be trying to communicate something, and we are responding with violence because we do not understand their language," the ambassador replied. "You have proven that humans can bond with Shadowpaws in ways other species cannot. We want you to lead a diplomatic mission." Scout jumped down from Jake's arm and walked over to the holographic display, studying the images of adult Shadowpaws with intense curiosity. The cubs had never seen full-grown members of their species. "This would be dangerous," Jake said. "Adult Shadowpaws are much more powerful than cubs." "Yes, but you would not be going alone," the ambassador said. "A full, diplomatic team would accompany you, including researchers, translators, and security personnel." Ryan stepped forward. "I would like to volunteer for the security team." Ambassador Thex looked surprised. "A Corvan warrior working with apex predators?" "Jake taught me that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is offer friendship to someone who expects violence." Lisa Chen appeared in the doorway, her crystal skin flickering with nervous but determined colors. "I would like to volunteer too. My people are good at understanding different forms of communication. Maybe I can help translate." Dr. Coral smiled. "It seems you have already begun building your team, Jake." Jake looked down at Luna, Shadow, and Scout. The 3 cubs looked back at him with complete trust, ready to follow wherever he led them. "There is something else," Ambassador Thex said. "Our analysis suggests that the attacking Shadowpaws might be protecting something, possibly cubs of their own." Luna made a soft, sad sound that Jake had never heard before. Shadow nuzzled against her comfortingly. "You think they are acting like parents protecting their children?" Jake asked. "It would explain the sudden aggression and the specific targeting of ships that approach their territory." Jake made his decision. "We will do it, but I want full authority to make decisions about how we approach the Shadowpaws. No military action unless I agree it is absolutely necessary." Agreed, the ambassador said immediately. 2 weeks later, Jake stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel as it approached the Shadowpaw homeworld. The planet looked beautiful from space, with green continents and blue oceans, but long-range scans showed massive creatures moving across the surface. Luna, Shadow, and Scout stayed close to Jake, seeming more alert than usual. They could sense that they were approaching their ancestral home. "Contact on sensors," reported the ship's Chirin navigator. "Multiple large life forms moving toward our position." On the main screen, adult Shadowpaws appeared. They were magnificent and terrifying, 3 meters long with claws that gleamed like metal. But Jake noticed something else in their movements. "They are not attacking," he observed. "They are investigating." Dr. Coral checked her instruments. "Their body language suggests caution, not aggression." Jake made a decision that surprised everyone. He activated the ship's external communication system and made the same soft clicking sound he used to call his cubs. The response was immediate. All the adult Shadowpaws stopped moving and turned toward the ship. Then, to everyone's amazement, they began making the same clicking sounds back. "They are trying to talk to us," Jake said with wonder in his voice. Luna, Shadow, and Scout became very excited, chirping and making complex sounds that Jake had never heard before. On the screen, the adult Shadowpaws responded with their own calls. "Jake," Dr. Corral said softly, "I think your cubs are translating." Ryan Blake shook his head in amazement. A human, 3 cubs, and a bunch of adult apex predators having a conversation. "My warrior ancestors would never believe this." Jake smiled as he listened to the complex exchange of sounds between his friends and their species. "I think our mission just got a lot more interesting." The ship continued toward the planet's surface, escorted by the adult Shadowpaws who now seemed curious rather than threatening. Jake knew that the real work was just beginning, but for the first time since leaving the academy, he felt confident about the future. Sometimes the most dangerous creatures just needed someone willing to listen to what they were really trying to say. And sometimes the key to peace between species was as simple as a human who saw friends instead of monsters.